not just calories. Food is information. It talks to your DNA and it tells it what to do. The most potent force to change your environment, to change your health, and to change your entire world actually lies in your fork. These are the words of Mark Amen. My name is Fashion Yutolani, your T-Fash, baby girl from the Savage Line. This is the Nutrition Gist segment of Onyx Show. Global statistics on the present COVID-19 pandemic record that high percentage of individuals from developed countries seem to have a fall prey to this disease condition, coronavirus, than people living in underdeveloped nations. Even in the underdeveloped or developing nations of the world, you have more incidences of this virus among the wealthy, the rich, and the overnourished, seemingly more than the poor, the low-income earner, and the undernourished. It's a whole long series. 10 reasons why the rich and the overnourished have more COVID-19 incidences than the poor and the malnourished. Obesity. In a nurse's health study, which followed 114,000 middle-aged women for the space of about 14 years, it was discovered in this study that the risk of hypercholesteremia, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes was 93 times higher in women with a BMI of 35 kilogram per meter squared compared to women with a BMI of less than or equal to 22 kilogram per meter square. And this particular research was also carried out in a follow-up clinical trials on men, and it was just the same result. I mean, obesity and overweight carries with it a cascade of a whole lot of complications. I mean, by the time there is a build-up of fatty cells, especially around the belly bells, it fires up a lot of hormones and substances that brings more inflammations. And these inappropriate inflammations create a variety of health complications, including weakened immunity. By the time you understand that malnutrition is not just undernutrition, but it is overnutrition too, it is clear that simply living at this borderline of obesity puts you in the place of overnutrition, and overnutrition would always make the immune system compromised. Now the rich have more incidences of this compared to the poor, the hustler, the low-income earner. Of course, this puts the rich, the wealthy, and the overnourished at the forefront of COVID-19 attack as a result of compromised immune system. Is lack of good rest and good sleep. Someone rightly said, a good sleep is what half the work. You know, sleep is a simple way to bolster the immune system, you know, against colds, influenza, and the respiratory tract infections. So a publication actually by Aristotle, 50 BC, revealed that healing process is set up in the body when we sleep. So we see that poor sleep because as a result of excessive work, meetings, management, gatherings, so many things that the wealthy do more than the poor, you know, it really predisposes them to, you know, deplete energy levels, lose more focus, you know, lower productivity, and increase risk of high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. And of course, by the time the risk of that is increased, further increases the risk of falling prey of diseases like COVID-19. Underlying health disorders. Yes, underlying health disorders are like heart diseases, like type 2 diabetes, like lung infection or lung disease, can affect the immune system. Is already tackling these chronic diseases for a while, has built up a lot of defense against these conditions. And then it's always a long toll when it definitely has to encounter another external factor. This puts the individual at greater risk and contracting illnesses if exposed to the likes of COVID-19, because they already have some baseline chronic or long-term disease conditions that they are handling. And this is more among the wealthy. The incidences of hypertension, incidences of type 2 diabetes. Yes, we have some among the poor, but it is a disease condition more prone to the wealthy. Lack of adequate exercise or frequent activity level. A professor of cardiovascular medicine, Zenian, made us to know that exercise, is known to help with respiratory problems, especially the ARD. This respiratory failure is characterized by rapid onset of, widespread inflammations in the lungs. And this particular inflammation prevents the entry of oxygen into the lungs. It means that consistent physical activity can help flush out bacteria and some infections from the lungs and the airway. In fact, it reduces your chance of getting a cold or flu or other illnesses. The low-grade but regular exercise, it helps preventing complications that can come from our respiratory organ. Now, one of the complications of COVID-19 are respiratory issues. So the overnourished or the rich has the luxury of cars, has the luxuries of being chauffeured, carried from one place to the other. At times their feet hardly touches the ground. They move about in, being carried, they move about in flights, move about in cars. They hardly even walk out, except maybe weekends, and not regular, like the poor, who has to walk miles every day to get their daily food to eat, have to trek miles and trek miles, have to carry heavy loads, and all of these things that they do. This activity level, it helps their immune system, it helps the overall health, and of course it helps the lungs and prevents complications that can come from respiratory organs. So we see now that this is another factor that helps the poor to have more immunity against COVID-19 than the rich. 10 reasons why the wealthy or the overnourished fall prey to COVID-19 or infections more than the poor and the undernourished. Research reveals that when we are stressed, the immune system's ability to fight off antigens is grossly reduced. Why? Because the human body is most susceptible to infections when stressed. Why? Why does this happen really? There is something called the corticosteroid, which is the stress hormone. This hormone is released when we are under chronic or prolonged stress. And when corticosteroid is released, this hormone has one peculiar ability. That ability is that it reduces inflammations. That sounds good, really. But the inflammations that it reduces, it prevents the immune systems, the lymphocytes in the white blood cells, it prevents them from being able to rise to defend the body or fight infections. That means at the period of stress, chronic, prolonged stress, the inflammatory signals are much reduced, and so the lymphocytes of the white blood cells do not do their jobs. At that time, the person's immunity can be grossly compromised. The rich goes through more stress, or the overnourished much more than the poor. The poor's basic need is shelter and food, daily food intake. But the rich has a lot of investments. He has a lot of targets to meet. Large number of rich persons will tell you they do not even have good rest. Fortunately for the poor, it doesn't really have too much stress. Much stress, mental stress especially, is one very, very strong cogent reason why the rich have more incidences of infections like COVID-19 more than the poor and undernourished. Till we meet again, same time, same station, same me. You go, eat to live, and don't live to hate. Bye for now.